Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Starting Line. I'm your host, Sarah Allen. The Minnesota House of Representatives was focused on the governor's budget proposal as they drilled into the details.
41% in the K-12 area. If you add in higher education, that gets you almost to half of the state's general fund budget.
Committee members also began to hear more bills in committee as agency overviews were wrapped up. The bill featured in this week's Starting Line was one of those bills heard in committee this week.
So that basically, Mr. Chair, is the bill.
In a state that's known for its hunting and fishing, this bill would allow laser sights to be used by visually impaired hunters. We had the opportunity to sit down with the bill's sponsor, Representative Bud Nornis, to find out what the bill does and how it would work. Nornis, a former radio broadcaster and current Fergus Falls resident, is serving his 9th term in the Minnesota House of Representatives. Thank you, Representative Nornis, for sitting down to talk to us about House File 135. Can you describe it in detail for us and tell us how it originated?
Well, first of all, I'd say that this originated from a call that I received from a constituent. So many of the bills, I'd say almost all the bills that I've been working on over the years have originated that way, where somebody has an issue either with current law or an idea for something different, something new. And so that's where this originated from, and the bill is quite simple. It's a visually impaired constituent who loves to hunt, and all he's asking for is the ability to put a laser sight on his, he happens to be a bow hunter, I believe, but it could apply to a rifle as well. And so he's asking for the ability to have a laser sight on his bow, and that's actually permitted now under certain, I guess you'd say, organized conditions, because there are a lot of visually impaired or physically impaired individuals that love to hunt, and so there are organized opportunities to do that. This individual wants to do it on his own land. He happens to have some good hunting land, friends, neighbors, and so forth. So he said, why can't I do this on my own property with the aid of a friend or someone?
Can you describe how these laser sights would help visually impaired hunters?
I haven't actually seen how this works, but I envision it to be this person who is doing the actual firing or the release of the arrow is being instructed by his friend as to where the laser is aiming. And so it's the friend that's kind of, in a lot of cases, doing the sighting because he sees where the laser dot is.
What are the hurdles to getting your bill passed, and will you be working across party lines to see it succeed?
We'll get as many Democrats on board as possible. Representative Dill is the chair of the committee that we'll be presenting it to. I understand that his action that he will take is simply to lay it over for possible inclusion. So it doesn't, based on that, doesn't sound like it would necessarily have to travel very far. So that may be where it sits for the end of the session, and then we'll see at the end if it's included or not in the Dill's omnibus bill.
Thank you again, Representative Nornis, for talking to us about House File 135. Let's go and track House File 135 and see where it is in the political process. As you can see, it has had its introduction and first reading. It was heard in the House Environment and Natural Resources Policy Committee. And as we heard from Representative Nornis in the interview, it is likely to be rolled into an omnibus natural resources bill. We will continue to track this bill. And looking at last week's bill, Representative Mullery's minimum wage bill, you can see there's been no real movement on that bill. You can learn more about these bills and others through our online news service, Session Daily. This nonpartisan news source employs a staff of professional writers, editors, and photographers that provide you with in-depth coverage of the Minnesota House of Representatives. You can also watch live coverage of committee and floor action on House TV. Of course, you can always tweet me if there's a specific bill you'd like us to cover here on Starting Line. And remember, thousands of bills get introduced every legislative session in Minnesota. All of them first have to cross the starting line.